Anonymous 2, he, him writes, your show has given me the courage to come out and announce to my family and friends that I am panromantic and pansexual. I'm new in the community and I'm still finding my way. Some backstory, I'm a cis male, he, him, and I'm currently seeing an amazing trans woman who's also panromantic like me and asexual. She's great, but I do, however, wonder how that would work and if that could even work. My understanding of asexuality is a lack of or reduced sex drive, as she explained to me also. I think mine is normal, and I do feel that sex is an important part of my life. How do I approach this? Do you have any advice?
Well, that's
Yeah,
a fair question. I
absolutely.
harken back to the episode we did on asexuality with Miss O'Kist, and I definitely direct you there. But V, it seemed like you had something queued up.
Yeah, certainly always want to shout out Miss O'Kist. We also tend to have quite a couple people writing in with this or some variation of this question, which is how do we align sex drives that are disparate in some way, right? Maybe one of us wants more sex, one of us wants less. How do we do that? So first, I want to say you're not alone. This is not something that you are experiencing that nobody else understands. So first of all, I'd say go to our Facebook page, right? Get in touch with our Reddit. Be active in the live chat. We have a community here, a lot of whom have had similar experiences, asked similar questions, and have come to their own conclusions. So we can give you our 2 cents, but I also really highly recommend you kind of crowdsource this answer and get as many different viewpoints as possible here.
Yeah, I think part of the key is going to be negotiating the nature of this relationship. If we're going to keep doing retrospectives, I guess I'll shout out the episode we did with Marie Dillahunty, where we talked about designer relationships and about maybe the responsibility, if not obligation, to be negotiating our relationships. So often we are just sort of handed this expectation, what we often will call like an escalator relationship, where there is a expectation that you become friends or acquaintances and then friends, and then you go out on a few dates, and then you get the first kiss, and then that leads to sex for the first time, and eventually the relationship leads in these like very specific directions and is required to include all of these specific things that you're told your partner is supposed to be your best friend and your only sex partner and your business partner. And, there are all of these like expectations and obligations, your co-parent, like all of these things are supposed to be bundled up into the same human. And I just don't know that you're ever going to find anybody that you line up with perfectly on every single one of these topics or every single one of these issues. And that's okay. I don't know that anybody needs to be your everything. I don't know that anybody should be your everything. And if there are things in this relationship that aren't quite meeting your needs, there may be some other ways of going about that. The one obvious thing to talk about would be non-monogamy. A lot of ace folks do experience a sort of mono-poly relationship where their partner will have other partners to scratch that sexual itch. But I don't want to make it seem as if that's the expectation or that's the most common way of going about it. I think more than that, it's going to be discussing and expressing your sexual needs and finding ways to meet in the middle. The sexuality might be having occasional sexual encounters with one another, maybe adding on to that increased sexual encounters with yourself, perhaps having some level of monogamish or other form of non-monogamous relationship where you're having occasional sexual partners with somebody else. There are a lot of ways of approaching this, and there are a lot of ways of being in this relationship and getting your needs met, but they're all going to require you to communicate and understand and negotiate each other's needs.
I also think it's important to highlight that asexuality is a spectrum, right? And from what you're saying about your partner, it sounds like she is not sex repulsed, which is good. If you want to have sex with her, I think that it's probably better if she's just experiencing maybe a lack of sex drive or reduced sex drive, as opposed to actively disliking sex, which some asexual people do. So if she is just not as sexual as you, or does not have a sex drive necessarily, I think that's an important thing to suss out as well, and make sure that that's that you're understanding that correctly, because something that might be possible with somebody who just has a reduced sex drive wouldn't necessarily be possible for somebody who is sex repulsed. So I'd say make sure you have continuing conversations with her, and make sure that she is feeling like she can open up and be honest about this, because I know a lot of the time there's also that pressure from the outside to be sexual, right? If you're not sexual, there's something wrong with you. If you don't want sex, then you must be broken in some way. So she might also be downplaying how much she doesn't want sex. I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be. So make sure that she feels safe to open up to you, to give you the information you need to make a wise decision in terms of making those compromises, like Christy said.
Yeah, it really all comes down to that conversation and communication. So we hope the best for you, and please feel free to let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.